Good evening and welcome to The Square. Tonight's discussion is going to focus on how best the Rwandan government can improve on delivering services for the benefit of citizens in Rwanda. We're having this conversation against the backdrop of the upcoming 16th edition of the annual leadership retreat, which is going to take place in the first week of March. So we're going to be having a look at past resolutions as well as looking at issues such as performance contracts and how government works with stakeholders to improve on the citizens' lives in this country. With us, we have from the Ministry of Local Government. I'm very honored to welcome you to The Square once again. This is your second time. Yes. We are joined with Bob Gakire, who is the Acting Director General Territorial Administration from the Ministry of Local Government.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Diana Mpisi. I'm the host of The Square. I'm also joined by The Square's resident panelists. On my immediate right is Charles Haba. Charles, great to see you again.
Good to see you. Welcome back.
Thank you. I'm also joined on my left by Berna Namata. Berna, great to have you on the show.
Back then.
And well done on last week's hosting.
No, I missed you.
I missed you guys too, but it was good to see you, moderating and hosting an amazing conversation. Yes. So before we get into the thick of things, we're just going to have a quick midweek recap of the week. I'll start with you, Berna. Is there something you'd like to share with us exciting that has happened until today, Wednesday?
Yes.
Yes.
Of course, the big interview in the East African. Yes. We're very privileged and honored to have the interview with His Excellency. And I'm encouraging everyone to go and buy the copy. It's on the streets. Please buy and support us. It's quite insightful. And I think that the interview is quite timely because
and just giving context for people who are not in the region. This interview happened with the East African, Pamela Sisoni, and His Excellency President Paul Kagame.
Yes. And it looks at a wide range of issues, but it clarifies several issues that perhaps for the general public, they've been wondering, what's the position on that. So please go buy the copy and get the details. Exactly. I know it's already online, but it's good that, we have clarity on some of the key issues. Yeah.
Not sure about clarity, but definitely a good read from the East African and the interview with President Paul Kagame. Again, the usual optimistic leader that he is. He responds to issue after issue. We have problems in the AU, but we shall continue to address them. We have problems with South Africa, but we shall continue to address them. We have problems with Uganda, but we shall continue to address them. We have problems in the East African community, and we are confident that they will be resolved. So I think the biggest lesson, the biggest message that I picked up from there was the optimism, but at the same time, the boldness and the courage to acknowledge that we do have issues. Yeah.
Definitely, I think we'll be reading this hardcore copy.
It's a souvenir copy.
Hard copy of the East African. And I think it was also very timely to have it at this point. Also a culmination of his chairman presidency of the African Union, as well as stepping into the shoes of EAC chair. It was a very timely interview. Well done to you and your team.
Thank you.
So we are here talking about how best government can provide for citizens, and we're setting this against the backdrop of the upcoming 16th edition of the annual leadership retreat. And Bob, you're here on behalf of the Ministry of Local Government, because I think the Ministry of Local Government is the most adequate and, should I say, relevant stakeholder in rolling out services for citizens countrywide. So my first question to you, and also on behalf of the panel, is to do with performance contracts. And when we had this discussion on The Square, I think it was our second episode discussing performance contracts, we looked at a particular issue, and this was the mayoral resignations that happened last year. As of June 2018, we had, I think, over 13 mayors who had resigned. And some cited personal reason, but the public perception was that there was failure to actually deliver on their Imihigo, on their performance contract. So my question to you, if you can just share with us a bit, learning from the events of last year, following the 15th annual retreat last year, if you can share with us what level of preparation and consultations take place, or have you learned from last year that are taking place, being made between local and central government in the 2018-2019 district performance contracts, so that these leaders can better deliver for Rwandan citizens?
Thanks, Diana. I also take this opportunity to thank the viewers. Indeed, after the last year, what was going on with mayors resigning and what we've been doing since then, we, including the retreat we've been saying, there's a lot that has happened. Basically, taking stock of what had happened, would see what are the main issues in, is it the structure, is it the capacity, and then laid some strategies to avoid such a designation of that kind, of that pace, of that figure and everything. I think immediately after that, around June or July, we had contacted by local government by elections. And all of them were repressed. But leave alone that, during September last year, 2018, we did what I could say like an indoor retreat for only local government leaders, those who do like the daily business. I'm saying the mayor and the vice mayors and then the chief technicians. I'm saying the district executive secretaries. Then we had to see what can we do to deliver better. As you could be knowing, and everybody who is following the structure of Rwanda, I would say that the performance of the government, of the central government, largely depends on the performance of local government. Because whether you're in agriculture or health or education, everything you do is done by the local government. Indeed, it relies on the policies and strategies formulated and designed by the central government. But if you designed it, you can't achieve a target or result without local government input. So we appreciate this, and it's largely appreciated by anybody who is following the local government performance and everything. But what we did after then was that retreat was so useful to them because we were seeing, we didn't invite like anybody else outside local government. It was just we, the ministry and local government, saying, how can we deliver better? And how can we bring in the required embeddedness? I'm saying, how can the citizen own this, understand this, and make his or her contribution for whatever we are doing, for whatever we are thinking that can transform the communities and lives of these people. So it didn't stop from there. We also did another, this was done earlier this year, what we called Local Government Delivery Forum. It was kind of first of its kind because we had a chance of having the Prime Minister, and then we were in Nyamata, also seeing similar issues. But this time, the only difference was we were inviting the key ministries that have the sectoral mandate. Here I'm saying like the Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Infrastructure, which have different projects and infrastructures around the country, around the districts, of course, in local government, then telling them that, for instance, what I can quickly remember was saying, when we are signing these contracts, performance contracts in the parliament or whatever, KCC, we all pen a paper on these performance contracts. But then thereafter, our ownership all jointly goes on declining. Then we are saying, what can we do? That ownership from the beginning, how can we go with it till the end of the next evaluation? But another thing that was done, which was done even last after the previous district of 15, was like revising how can we set performance contracts that are more transformational. As you could be aware, the last year evaluation was conducted by NISR. And what was the difference?
Can you spell out NISR?
National Institute of Statistics for Rwanda. What was different is we couldn't only stop on just saying that we construct a health center or a school. What we're even seeing is, yes, you've constructed a school, but is the dropout also decreasing? You've constructed a health center, but do they have equipment? So that was the difference. Before you could just see a structure standing, but what is it being used in that structure? So we couldn't, if you couldn't attain it and then make it transformation for the communities around, you could score lowly. Those are the things that we discussed, and then
so there's a level of institutional coordination that you,
at least to a certain
you really
extent,
adopted following the events of last year.
Yes, which is helping to have at least performance contracts or MHIGO that is more transformational than before. But another thing we did is which is continuous, is about building their capacity through different stakeholders, including the associations of local government, which is LALGA, Rwanda Association of Local Government Authorities. They also do kind of capacity across the local government officials, be it the lower staff, the directors, and others. But this is a continuous process.
Okay. So basically, what we were trying to understand also is that when it comes to performance contracts, they're being designed in a manner that makes the implementation of these activities people have signed for more realistic, more pragmatic, and more impactful. Is this something that we can expect moving forward? Because some of the public perception was that maybe these performance contracts are not aligned with the people who are supposed to actually implement them in terms of their capacity.
If I may, Diana, I think even beyond being aligned with the people who are supposed to be implementing or the recipients, because it was one of the recommendations from the 15th Leadership Retreat was that performance contracts need to be aligned with the country's development agenda. And I think that's where really the biggest gap was. I would be very keen to see how that has changed. But on a general comment in terms of the leadership retreat, one thing that used to be that is no longer is, in the true sense of the word, you expected the leadership retreat to be a secret. But it's actually a very predictable forum. When the leadership retreat happens, day one, all the banners will go there to cover the event. And then after day one, they are chased away. And then the retreat continues for another 2-3 days. And then for the public to know exactly what happened during those 2-3 days, you see the reaction of all these leaders in the next 1-2 months, and then you're able to detect what actually happened. And then if the resolutions come out in a very broad manner as they usually come out, the other way to know the details of those resolutions is watch the month or two in the run-up to the retreat. You will see all sorts of actions happening. And Bob has just said that we are preparing. They literally go down. It is very difficult during this 1 month or so to the leadership retreat to find a leader in office. They are rushing, they are in a hurry to go and ensure that what they were supposed to have done the last 12 months, they are able to do. Even the other way to look at it is, in the leadership retreat resolutions of the last year, there is something around increasing the revenue from MICE from 47 million, I think, to 74 million. I stand to be corrected on those figures. That was the screaming headline in one of the papers last week. So it's a bit intriguing.
Your take on it is that
yes,
this predictability, you want to see a change in it?
No, it's intriguing, and some of these leaders should stop taking us for a ride, because we are not all of us are fools. They should do the things they are supposed to have done during the course of the year, as opposed to waiting towards the leadership retreat and sugarcoat it with beautiful press conferences and the like. Yeah. I think
we'll get to that towards the end, in terms of looking for new momentum of how we convene as leaders, as government, to better plan on the welfare of our people. But that's. Are you going to build on what Charles said?
Yes. I'd like to build on that because it goes back to the process he's talking about. You have these leaders come together and discuss, and then resolutions. I'm more interested in the transparency and accountability to citizens. Because from what he's saying, when you have leaders work around the clock towards the retreat, then it's more like the accountability is actually limited to the retreat, because that's where they expect questions and, you know, they will be asked the tough questions. But how about at what point does the citizen feel they have a right in this whole process to say and to even monitor, you know, these resolutions? Because most of the time, they're wonderful resolutions, or if we go back to the Imihigo that have been set, it's the districts that know, and it's difficult for a citizen to say, to even monitor on a day-to-daily basis to say, you are expected to do this, to deliver on this, to deliver on this, and you haven't. Because it's still kind of closed. How, you know, as you're talking about changing things, it would be good to enlighten us on how, what you're doing differently, one, in terms of transparency, and also increasing citizen participation and accountability.
Thank you, Bena. I think it's not only the retreat that holds leaders, be it local leaders or anybody accountable. I think when you see the fiscal year of Rwanda that guides us all, Imihigo is set and signed around July, August. And the retreat comes in Feb, March. So that means along the way before the retreat, things are being worked on, and things are being done. Yes, I agree, the national retreat is among the accountability forum. But also there's Mshikirano, there are local councillors, there's Imihigo, which is evaluated around May, June, then people expect to see the results in July, August. So I would say every month or every month or every time something's being done. But as Charles said, maybe in the retreat, we're in time of retreat now preparing for it. Maybe those meetings, you might say that these meetings happen during on the way to the retreat. That was done. Because as I said, when we finished the retreat of last year, 15th, we had a retreat in March. Our own retreat, I'm saying for the local government. We had another one of saying, like, yes, in March, it was even opened by His Excellency the President, remember? Then thereafter, we had issues of not people performing in a way, some had to resign or whatever. Then in September, we also see, it's now like after these several months, what are we doing? That wasn't towards the retreat. Then for what Bena was saying, we have different forums where districts can understand what's going on. If I may use, maybe it will come up later. For instance, we've had comments or complaints about the categorization. This largely wasn't into the resolution of the last retreat, the one we are implementing now. But as we've been following, we now say, but people have been complaining. What can we do? Maybe let's review and then start with the citizens, saying, what do we want for this categorization to be? How many should they be? There are around questions 6 we're asking them now. And this, if anything, they come up in the retreat or in the other forum, at least we have involved the local people, the communities, putting in their input. Then as we go on and receiving reports from the districts and they're analyzing, maybe it could come up as a topic for discussion. Actually, during the retreat of leaders.
I'd like to just take you back to Bernard's question, just to precise you a bit more. We're going to come to the social protection programs. Right. But since last year's 15th leadership retreat, after the resolutions were announced from February, working towards, this February, can you tell us what, at least from your perspective, representing the Ministry of Local Government, some of the activities you do to engage with citizens, so that some of these resolutions, when you're implementing them, there's an engagement of citizens? Are there some concrete examples you can give us?
Yes.
Because right now you're just telling us, we did this in our retreat, we did this in our retreat, but what are some tangible outcomes whereby those decisions made following the 15th but also from a Minaloc government, the delivery forum and so forth and so on, how do you take that back to the citizens and make them understand and own some of these?
Or is it a secret?
No, it isn't. It is not. For instance,
but you get a question.
Yes. For instance, the retreat resolutions were 13.
Yes.
Out of those 13, for instance, what we said about Imhigo performance contracts. Performance contract, when we say it, there are so many things involved. Yes. If we say, let's revise how these things are set and how they are evaluated, I think 10% of the score is done by the citizens, among others, because they are different in scoring. You see, what is the council scoring against Imhigo? The council is representation of the citizens. Then they also take 10% asking people, like they sample people around. Say, they can come at where maybe Charles Saba lives in Reservoir, say, how do you appreciate the road that was constructed in your area? He says, I can give them 5 out of 10. I can give them 7 out of 10. That is getting people involved. Then at least that 10% out of the district score is done by the district. Then that was the resolution for the national retreat. Another one was about constructing health posts, at least in all cells. Then this says they were constructing them. The government are using different approaches, including contributions of the citizens, according to your capability, how you can afford to pay, where they are not. You can say either I will contribute this, or because health post is a small thing in the cell, a Kagari. The citizens are also contributing one or another. First of all, indirectly, like paying. Some of these health posts are being constructed using the own source revenues. Own source revenues, these are the revenues collected by the district and used by the district. And some of them, why I'm saying they are contributing directly, they pay taxes. So when you pay taxes, when you're in a village like Nyaruguru or Nyagatare and see something being brought near, like a health post, then you're contributing. When you say, Imhigo, as we said, I will pay for health insurance because it's paid by the citizens, by the Baturaji. So if the district gets in that indicator of health insurance, then you're contributing. Maybe what I would say is, like, how do we make people be aware that when you contribute this, you're also contributing for Imhigo of your particular district. When I ask you how you appreciate the road that was constructed or a school, and then you score out of 10, you give 5 or 7, you're also contributing in the evaluation process.
I just wanted to take you back, and I'm sure you've seen the Never Again report, recent report, yes, on citizen participation. And what was very clear from that report is that citizen engagement, in the process of development, we still have some ground to cover. And from the process that you have described, indeed, there are steps that are being made. But how do we strengthen this process so that citizens own this whole development agenda? Because as it is today, there seems to be a gap. You have the leaders who own and sign the Mihigo, and the people that are supposed to deliver them for, but then you don't see a lot of engagement that would oblige the citizens to own. Because if we say we are going to set up 10 health centers, and I know in my village I need 10 health centers, I want to know how we will achieve the 10, health centers. And that can come from, the leadership engaging me and saying, we actually agreed with local government that we are going to have 10 centers, and this is what everyone is expected to contribute. Or perhaps the citizen may say, no, right now the priority for me is education. I need a school and not a health center. So who sets the priorities?
And and if I can add to Brenna's example. Another example that I just want to add to Brenna is, for instance, the lack of citizen engagement. And this is, I'll give a concrete example. There are parts of the country last year where there was serious malnutrition. Then there are other parts of the country last year where there was an oversurplus of milk that was being, gotten rid of. So these are citizens who, on one hand, their children are suffering from malnutrition. On the other hand, they are farmers who are producing surplus of milk. How do these citizens, get involved in this process to solve some of these issues, but under the directive of these leaders? These are some of the issues we're seeing, where we see when the performance contracts are set and signed and they are put out there, there's a coordination issue whereby we don't see citizen engagement, and the result is some of this example I've just mentioned to you. So how does that work? How is this? What changes can we expect moving forward?
Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Ben. I think we still have. I accept we still have some gaps somehow, somewhere, and we need to fix this.
Yes.
More especially on citizen participation, as you're saying. But when you see the trend, we keep on improving.
Absolutely.
The good thing, we have structures. I think you are all aware that we only have like at least a week, a day. We do have community assemblies. Maybe turn up is another issue. It's the city, it's not seeing the higher number turning up, but at least we have these structures. What we are doing is how do we strengthen these community assemblies for everybody to get involved? When we are launching this planning cycle of 1920, which starts in September, I think you followed in a way how we kind of, in all cells of Rwanda, we had to say that planning's priorities for 1920 should have the citizens' demands or wishes. And then they gather, at least every cell, that is, there are always administrative people that have staff, how to gather issues from the people residing in that cell. We are now working on those priorities. Then when it comes to like June, when we are like signing this Mihigo and plans for the district, at least we have captured at least 1 or 2 from each cell. Of course, it goes with the capacity of funds and budget for each district. Then for like, how do we, what Bena was saying, numbers, never again studies and whatever. But when you see also other studies like CRC by RGB, to me, the numbers are increasing. The numbers are increasing, maybe at the not a satisfactory level where we all want.
But over the years, there's been an upward trajectory.
Exactly. From 60, I think, from 64, we're now around 71. The target is 85, of course. We're not hitting the target, but we keep on seeing and building the capacity of government to involve citizens. If they're not involved, then there's no sustainability for this, what we are doing.
Yes. Bernard, just very quickly.
I have a proposal. Is it possible to, as you said, the Mihigo, to come up with an indicator that measures citizen participation in this whole process? You don't have to answer that today.
What's an idea that has been thrown there?
Yeah. Because then, because what we've seen with Imihigo is that leaders are keen to score on indicators. So if we can score them on citizen participation directly and say you are at maybe 0 or 5, then perhaps they will take it more seriously and the consultative process will get better. I don't know.
On citizen participation?
Yes.
We do it, maybe we do it differently in another way. For instance, when Imihigo is in 3 clusters, there is economy of building roads and factories, agro-processing plants and whatever. Then there's the part of social. It goes with reducing dropout, having schools, paying
wearing shoes,
medical insurance and whatever, hygiene and sanitation and everything. Then the cluster 3 is about governance. The indicators for governance, if you do it well, then citizen participation goes up. For instance, if you say, I will resolve citizen complaints at this level, resolving them doesn't mean that you will just receive their complaints. You go there in those community assemblies, I said, then discuss with them. But also in the same forum, you will say, I will strengthen community assemblies. So when you strengthen community assemblies as a target, at least you're trying to strengthen this forum, this session, where the citizens come and discuss their issues, and then when an evaluator comes at the end of 12 months, we ask them, did you participate in this? When he or she says yes, at least the figures goes high. Okay. That's how we embed in the citizen participation indicators.
Bob, I think you guys are doing a commendable job. It's just that I think you're lighting a candle and keeping it under the table in a dark room. So it's extremely important. In the business world, we usually have project trackers. So I think it's also important that for you, once you leave the leadership retreat or that local government retreat for that matter, whatever forum you have met in and resolved to do something. You inform us who are the beneficiaries of whatever you're planning to do, that we resolved to have built 54 kilometers in the residential areas and achieve that by 85%. We have 12 months to do that. The first quarter has ended, we have achieved it by X percentage. The second quarter has ended, we have achieved it by X percentage. You know, so that we're able to track it. That doesn't only help us to know that you're up to something, but it also helps you to be able to track that you're on the right path. So you don't wait for the leadership retreat, again, at the risk of repeating myself, to be knocking at the door and then tell us the good things you have been doing for the last 12 months. For us, we'll think you have been sleeping and you're waiting for the leadership retreat to wake up. Yeah.
But you do have a point in terms of some agencies coming to the fore ahead of leadership retreats, waiting, 12 months to come and start implementing things just before. My next question is, and also this is to the panel, is now on the social protection programs. And you mentioned it, and this is based on the fact that these social protection programs, Ubudehe, if you will, in Kinyarwanda, there's citizens who've been complaining recurrently, apparently, of government authorities for being corrupt in classification of citizens. Now, as you all know, the classification of citizens is to put them in categories based on their livelihoods, so to speak, and welfare, and therefore providing them services based on that categorization. So what is being done to actually categorize citizens correctly in terms of what local government authorities have been doing?
I think before you
based on these complaints, yes.
You know, when the Prime Minister was was speaking to the leaders in the retreat that Bob mentioned earlier on, he took them on cooking figures. Now, he also mentioned that in the last retreat, last year. Yes, he said that as well. So, of course, this has been a general Rwandan problem. Because from historically, you'd have Ministry of Finance coming up with painting a very rosy picture on some of these things. You'd have World Bank doing business rankings with RDB performing extremely well in certain areas, but when you go deep down, it's actually very difficult to get a building permit. So please don't feel very lonely in this. You work for a government that is historically known for being a big kitchen. Yes.
Thank you, Bandana. Then on community, on Ubudehe categorization, yes. I think and complaints. Yes. It somehow answers what we've been asking before. How do we engage citizens, and how do they participate in what we're thinking or planning for them? This was launched like yesterday countrywide, but launched at the grassroots level. As I said, every Tuesday, as per the guidelines, at least in every cell, there should be a community assembly, meaning all citizens who are living in that cell, we don't force everybody, but should go there and then see, at least get awareness on what's going on at government programs or policies, but also resolve some complaints or demands within that cell. So yesterday, it was all about we've had complaints in Ubudehe categorization. Yes. Now, you've been saying we just took figures, go and work that in the offices, we are not there. But now, we had your comments. We really understand them, and we need now you to own it, understand it, and do it from you. We had like a couple of questions, around 6, that we were asking them, for instance, how many categories do you think should be there for Ubudehe categorization? Should they be 5? Should they be 4? Then who should be, what criteria puts me or you or anybody in category 1 or 2, whatever, depending on which category? Is this the first time you're having such a conversation with citizens? Or the first time Ubudehe was rolled out, it was just implemented with very little consultation? We've been doing it, but as we all know, as we all do as institutions develop, yes. When we implement, when you find gaps, you take stock, then go back and see where can I correct. Okay. So that's why you say now, let's start and make it wide. In the previous categorization, structures like community assemblies weren't there. would just maybe let these people in the village do good, and then ask them, and then. But this time, at least we have this community sim that has been happening all along. Then we said, since we have this structure already, this session already established, why don't we use it to gather views from the Baturage, the citizens? How can we improve the categorization? So now we collected views.
Let me just get this clear. So you acknowledge the fact that the local leaders were actually imposing categories onto the citizens.
Not that.
That they did not belong to.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Yes.
I'm saying.
You're saying that that they were put in the categories they belonged to.
No,
yes.
That's not what I said,
yes.
Charles. I said before there were categorization of data that has been going on. And actually, they'll go on for like 3 years. After 3 years, we take stock of what has been done and how it was done, then see how we can improve. So that's what we are doing. They've been going on for 3 years, then 3 years are over now. We are going to set new categorization.
So the unfairness lasts 3 years before it is reviewed, basically.
No, it's not about the fairness. It goes on for 3 years. The last 3 years have elapsed. We are now setting new categorization. As you remember, before this one that we were in, we had 6 categories. Then the citizen said we should have 4, depending on the criteria. Then this time, depending on what they have said, we can even have 3 or 5 or 6, whatever will come out of it.
You're now starting to categorize
we're in consultation.
these social protection programs based on the feedback that citizens are directly telling
Exactly.
you. But this is not...
which we have just started.
Which you've just started. So it goes back to the question that I asked. When the program actually started, it was a sort of a program that was shared with citizens for them to adopt, but there was not a consultative process that in its creation. The first round.
They were consulting.
That's what we want to understand. Yes.
They were consulting.
Oh, okay.
But as I said, when you're implementing a program or a policy, you might see some
gaps,
loopholes, or whatever. Then you take stock, see this maybe. I remember this one we are in. We just piloted in 2 districts. Then we said, let's first pilot these districts. If it goes well, we replicate in all 28. That's how initially.
Okay.
We did it.
Okay.
But this time we are saying, let's collect views from all cells of Rwanda. Then views from the citizens will be gathered by the district, analyze them per the guidelines they have. Then thereafter I say, many of the districts, maybe around 70% said we should have 3 categories. But this will come from what we gathered yesterday.
Okay.
Then thereafter we come and say, maybe we should have 5. Then we also said, which criteria puts me in category 1 or 2 or 3. Say maybe, they might say those who are public employees shouldn't be in category 1, according to their views. So gathering all that, analyzing them, will come up with what citizens have participated in and what they own and understand.
For the next rollout of the social
of the categorization.
That's very good news.
And we expect to have now the categorization that is more embedded.
Absolutely.
Citizen understanding them and even owning them.
And owning it. That's very important.
I think that's very good news because the days of a thief are numbered.
And 40 days. Yes, Brenda.
Yes. I'm keen on monitoring implementation. Who will be in charge of monitoring this whole process? And the reason I ask that is because if you're telling us that it takes 3 years, what if...
Review.
Yes, 3 years to review. What if there was a mistake?
Indeed.
I think there was a mistake.
This
is what citizens are telling us.
Let me correct you. In those 3 years, if I want to change, there's even graduation. There are those who graduate. If I want to change, it doesn't stop that you've given your views and whatever and categorized. You won't get any chance of changing the category. Along the way, you do request. Even at the cell, say, me, the examples. Me, I've been category 1, but now since I got SEVI, I got money from Vision VUP program. Since I got money from Udehe, whatever, I would like to be in category 2.
So within those 3 years, there's actually, it's not static. There's
It's not
actually
static.
movement.
You can request
Did you
above
realize
and
change the
below.
all the
category.
examples Bob is giving are change upwards.
Yes, exactly.
But there's some who can move downward. Someone
No,
can
no,
come
from what I
they?
get, correct me if I'm wrong, Bob, from what I get, the only opportunity you have to change downward if you're unfairly categorized is after 3 years.
3 years, yes.
No, you can't even change downward. If you say this
During
is
the 3 years.
this is done in the village level. If you say maybe I was when you were doing categorization, I was better and I had this and had this source of income, but now I would request for the change. They do.
But Bob, that's
They
the
can change.
painful-
I think
that's the painful process that's been going on, and this is why we've had public outcry. You know that it's much easier for you when you graduate, yeah. But when you fall back, it's very difficult to prove to the authorities that actually my circumstances are worse off. And so what I'm asking is, you know, as you roll out the new
Categorization
plan,
and-
how do you ensure that if things don't go according to plan and my circumstances change downwards, you can easily rectify so that there's no public outcry? How have you fixed that?
Bana, you're
We
absolutely
do.
spot on. But
We
I will
do.
answer Bob. I will answer on Bob's behalf without necessarily showering him praise. It is very difficult for the local leaders to accept that you're going to drop down in the categorization of your Obudehe for one simple reason. Because that means that their performance contracts are going to be affected negatively.
Yeah.
They assume
absolutely.
an ascension. And for you to come up and say that my villagers, my people have dropped in the standard of living, you're going to get a bit of stick for that.
Yes,
so
you
that's
have to account
likely
for
not
that.
going to happen.
Exactly.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So there has to be a way.
Charles, over the categorization is different from Imhigo.
Yes, it is.
It's
Please
totally different.
explain to us.
No, but
For
you,
instance-
you mentioned in your own words, Bob, that one of the categories in the performance contracts, there was a social aspect. You said that.
But in social
Yes.
aspect,
Yes.
there are so many activities. In the social aspect, there is school construction. That I will construct schools. There is dropout. There is paying medical insurance. There is
Which is as per your Wudehe category.
no.
Exactly. Yes.
Yes.
It is. Yes.
But
So they're
you can't
interlinked.
say
You can't say it's different. They are always interlinked.
But with the categorization, it's one indicator of medical insurance you're saying. For instance, economic cluster, which often used to take 60% of the score, getting an tarmac road in where you stay doesn't matter whether you're in day 1 or day 2. They just say we have to construct this road, put in tarmac because it is needed, it's necessary. So, the categorization as in being linked to Imhigo, it's really insignificant in one way or another.
Okay,
Maybe if you're saying for like this EACV we see, because for them it's about poverty and whatever. Say if in my district, if I say I have many people in category 1, and then EACV which comes after 3 years will put me down, and I don't think you can do that. How? EACV is scientifically done.
Yes.
I can't ask somebody, do you eat? How many times do you eat? And whatever. There's no way the district or government can say if AICV or NISR comes, national statistics say you say I eat when you don't eat. You can't do that.
But Bob, I just want us, before we go to our next question, to just tighten, I think, what Bernard was trying to get at, and before Charles answered on your behalf. But basically, in the categorization of people and their welfare, and it's categorized for a reason. To pull people out of poverty and to ensure they get the services they deserve based on their capacity. Is it possible if someone moves down in the category, let's say from 1 to 3, that person, if he or she goes to the district, this is when I'm trying to echo what you said, and says, I need additional services because I'm no longer financially, economically capable to remain in the first category, so I therefore need this and this sort of welfare support from government. Is that possible within the 3 years?
It's much possible.
And
It's not done at the district.
Yes.
When you want to change, you get a form from the cell. The cell also gets information from the village.
Of course.
Where you're living.
Yes.
Say,
That's the evidence, of
Charles
course,
wants
yes.
to graduate because he was in category 1 when we were reviewing the categorization, but now maybe he has an income, he got married and everything. They just fill the form. Now the sales have the software, which is even linked up to Loda.
Our question is vice versa. Is that possible?
It is possible.
Okay.
I think
very
it is
quickly
possible.
before we get to-
I
yes.
think it is possible. Yeah. What I'm concerned about is the process leading to making that possible. Now, going back to the issue that he raised, human behavior always responds to incentives. Yeah. There is no, as far as I know, there's no incentive for the local leader to report that
Of
10
course.
people in my village have gone down, you know. So the local leader will try as much as he can to cover up if there are people that are going down, you know. So in this whole review process, yeah, do we have an alternative to say that in cases where the local leader may not report accurately or fast-track the process of helping this person who has gone down, yeah, what is their choice? Where can I go if I've gone down and the local leader, the process is taking long? What happens?
If you want to go to the category 1, you've been in category 2.
Yes.
It's possible. For instance, if a disaster happens, right? Maybe you lose a house and everything. You just go and tell the local leader, I'm no longer able to do this because my income is very low.
This is what
And
we
then
wanted
because
to get to.
if you don't do it, then at least the consequence will be on you as a leader, because you'll be able to rent for him or her. If you don't report him and then change his category,
Yes.
you'll be the one to like pay everything for him or her.
Absolutely.
So you have to report that these people, 10 households, whatever,
So
because
that
of
was our
ABCD.
question. We wanted to understand vulnerable populations when they actually, you know, go down in the category, if they're actually catered for by
They are
government
catered
agencies. The last question for this evening is to do with basically driving momentum. So we've talked about retreats. Charles has talked about business as usual. You see how retreats pan out when, you know, leaders are gathered, the actions that happen. And during last year's retreat, His Excellency President Paul Kagame said that, you know, for the last 15 years, the same things have been coming up, and we've been saying them 15 times. So this question is really to you all as a panel and to you, Bob. What do you think can be done, you know, as we conclude the show, to what new sort of mindsets can we adopt, or what sort of tangible sort of examples can you give on how we can drive a momentum for Rwanda's transformational agenda when we convene as leaders through these annual national leadership retreats?
I think that the most important thing is how do we build the capacity of, more especially the local leaders. I'm saying capacity, not like personal capacity, trainings, whatever, but be it organizational, institutional, and personnel. How do we, it's a continuous process. Capacity building is all about continuous process. But how do we make it a priority of priorities? How do we invest in them for them to deliver as it's required? Because if they have the capacity, planning will be better.
Yeah, but do you think there's a shortage in capacity, so to speak? This is what these are some of the challenges. Yes.
In different categories. You might be having, for instance, now if you say into government context, you might be having the best brains and best whatever skills, but at least where are you going to work? Like if you say at the cell level, at the sector level, what facilities are there? Yes, I learned IT, I can use a computer and whatever, but if I go, do I get an internet? Do I get a laptop to work on? That's the capacity I'm saying.
Okay.
They have the facilities for them to deliver. The cell is the entity that has interface with the pathology we are saying. So the citizen, when he sees the cell or sees the cell and then the sector, he or she sees the government. But if I'm not able to give this or delay, then complaints raise up. So that's why I'm saying that capacity. Because if you have the capacity and if you have the facilities, you can even plan better. You have these plans and these figures just were saying in your computer. So you can easily go there and say, I was in Ras Muganda, we did 2 kilometers, next we are doing 1. So this is why I see the concern most. Because if you have that, maybe planning can improve, efficiency will come, that embeddedness you are saying, you can engage the citizens, you can record their views and everything.
Do you have ideas on how to drive momentum forward for the outcomes and how these leadership retreats are planned?
I think we need to create space for the local leaders to experiment and learn.
That's brave. Experiment and learn at whose cost?
No.
At your cost, at my cost, as a citizen?
Because what you have sometimes is that people are in positions and they cannot take any decisions. And that takes forever because they are afraid of taking any decision. So
accountability,
instead,
so to speak.
So what you have is people sitting on files saying, I'm waiting for so-and-so to take the final decision. Because should anything go wrong, it's not my problem. It is their problem. So how we create that sense of ownership and increase the risk, the risk appetite has to increase. Because I don't see how you can possibly be able to achieve so much without try and error. Now, the interesting thing is, when you look at Rwanda's development process, it's been try and error. But there's research coming out showing us that that is not done on a day-to-day basis. So imagine what we could achieve if we had the opportunity and the space to try out and learn. So that, because part of what discourages the experimentation and learning is the heavy cost that comes if there's an error. Someone is completely...
And being afraid to fail,
Yeah.
And as we all know, there are elements of failure that actually teach you how to do it better the next time, or what to avoid the next time. So it's a learning. It's definitely part and parcel of learning. I think that's very interesting, Brenna, giving space to our leaders, local leaders, to have spaces to learn, experiment, and better, deliver for citizens. Charles?
But they do have space.
You have space.
Maybe more space.
I think the point you're raising here, Bob, is that we need to advocate for that a little bit louder. And there's a particular reason why, in my opinion. You see, when you talk about the role of the local government in our day-to-day lives, from when we expect water, electricity, which are provided by the Ministry of Infrastructure, if those services do not get to the citizens, the first person they will look at is the head of the Mudugudu and the sector cell and so on and so forth. Exactly. When they do not have schools, or the roads are not being repaired, or talk about anything, or the economy is doing badly and they're not able to get loans from their banks, the first point of contact is the local leader. And therefore, you need to play your A game. And if you're unable to play your A game, you need to be empowered to play your A game. I think the Ministry of Local Government, and that's why it pains us, and we've sung this song here on the square quite a number of times, that the high turnover does not help in any way. Yeah, we need to probably ask the citizens, or maybe the appointing authority or the councillors, have a little bit of patience with you guys, because, giving credit where it's due, there are areas where you scored extremely well. But you are the fulcrum of implementation of all these recommendations from the leadership retreat. If any of them is not implemented, whether it is in the purview of the local leader or not, it is the local leader who will have to face that music. So I think you need to be really empowered, and I really want to underscore Bana's point. Otherwise, we'll keep raining hard on you.
I want us to go to our Twitter feed, and on our Twitter feed, we have a tweet from one quarter of the square. Even though he's not here, Ephraim is also weighing in on the conversation. And Ephraim says, in relation to the new momentum, we need to shift from the traditional arrogance by government when dealing with various stakeholders. Some of these issues, other stakeholders have been speaking on this forever, but government as the largest prefers to ignore. So he's talking about a sort of, nonchalant attitude by government. I don't know if I'd agree with that, because I think in terms of Rwanda delivering for its citizens, there's really a lot it does. But our benchmark should not be the region. Our benchmark should be
it should not be business as usual. I'm sure that's a point.
Yes, exactly.
Is raising. And I remember one of the shows recently, one of the things, serious bones of contention we had to pick was the unresponsiveness of especially local leaders. You know, it's so difficult to get a yes on time, an email responded to, a letter
yes
responded
or
to,
no.
a phone call picked, or a message returned. It's
But Charles, it goes back to that,
Yes.
that fear, that lack of
Yeah.
accountability. I don't want to make this decision in case it, you know, it backfires on me and so forth and so on. And it also goes back to Bernard's point. Maybe
and
leaders should have a mindset of being able to, you know, explore, experiment, and to learn, to add to the learning.
And that inaction is what probably Ephraim is interpreting as arrogance. I tend to agree with him to a large extent. Yes.
So we've come to the end of the show. Personally, I think I mean, it's being done, but I think we'd like to see more, at least understanding and learning how the engagement with citizens is, you know, because sometimes, unfortunately, it looks like some of these, you know, decisions that are made in closed rooms are gone, and there's a sort of top-down approach in how citizens, you know, adopt them. And I know there's a level of engagement, but I think what we're saying on the square is to either see more of it or to understand the processes that are engaged by local government when they go to citizens and, you know, inform them, educate them, make them sensitized about these issues, but really to have a pull also from Rwandan citizens basically owning the process, and not have that perception of a sort of top-down approach. Do you?
You're totally right. I think we don't have any other option apart from having their views. Because whatever, if you don't engage them, then what you're doing won't be sustainable at all.
Yes.
So we, as I've been saying, we're not where we were, but also we're not where we're supposed to be.
Yes.
So let's keep on doing this, but also us all, where Herbert, Dave, so you,
Yes.
Bernard,
Yes.
we go for Muganda.
Absolutely.
If we
Okay.
say we want to have our roads, we now, for instance, we review the policy of Muganda, and one of the things that changed from the previous one, we're coming up with like another professional Muganda. For instance, if you're a doctor and you're living in this village, you can say, let's put together as an association and then help these people for certain things we can do. If you're engineers and maybe your village, they're constructing a road, can't we say that since we have engineers in this village, why can't we do like supervision for the construction of this
So
road?
basically, it starts with us as well. It starts with
Where
us
we
to
are
be part of this
living.
process. Yes.
We now have the social media.
Yes.
You see, this the categorization was on the social media. You can even contribute there because we're even considering views that were given through the social media. So all of us, me and you, can make this happen and happen
Thank
at a
you.
great better.
Thank you very much, Bob. Thank you very much, Berna, Charles, and Ephraim, wherever you are sending us your views from. I'd like to thank our partners, Uzi Collections and Bourbon Coffee. Thank you very much for being a part of the Square. Please keep the conversation going on the Square ahead of the upcoming retreat on terms of how government can better deliver services for citizens and improve the welfare of Rwandans. This is what we've been having tonight as a discussion in the Square, and we'll keep this going through our digital platforms. Thank you for joining us. Have a good night and see you next week.